Have you ever thought about what could be lurking in the shadows on New Year's Eve? It's a night of fireworks, celebrations, and new beginnings. But for some, it's a night they'd rather forget. A night where the festive cheer is replaced by chilling fear. Today, we're going to dim the lights and delve into 3 very scary, true New Year's Eve horror stories. These aren't tales from a movie, they're real experiences from real people. So, get comfortable and let's count down to a different kind of New Year. Our first story comes from a woman named Chloe, who was working the late shift as a hotel receptionist. It was New Year's Eve, around 11 p.m. The hotel was surprisingly quiet, with most guests out celebrating. Chloe was tidying up the front desk when the phone rang. The caller ID showed an internal line, room 207. She answered with the standard hotel greeting. The line was silent for a few seconds. Then a man's raspy voice simply said, "Don't let her leave." Chloe was confused. "I'm sorry, sir. Who is this?" The man just repeated, "Don't let her leave the room," and hung up. Chloe was a bit creeped out, but she checked the system. Room 207 was registered to a Mr. and Mrs. Gable, a middle-aged couple who had checked in a few days prior. They had seemed perfectly normal. Chloe decided it might just be a prank or a misunderstanding. About 15 minutes later, the phone rang again. Room 207. This time, when she answered, she heard what sounded like a woman quietly sobbing. Before Chloe could say anything, the same raspy voice from before came on the line, "I told you not to let her leave." Click. Now Chloe was genuinely scared. This was getting weird. She thought about calling security, but she didn't want to make a scene over what could be nothing. Just then, the elevator doors opened and a woman stumbled out. She looked disheveled, her makeup was smudged, and she was visibly shaken. She hurried towards the front door. As she passed the desk, Chloe recognized her as Mrs. Gable from room 207. Chloe hesitated, the man's words echoing in her mind. "Ma'am, are you all right?" she called out. Mrs. Gable just shook her head and rushed out into the cold night. Moments later, the phone rang a third time. Room 207, Chloe's hand was trembling as she picked it up. This time, the voice was different. It was calm, almost cheerful. "Happy New Year," it said. "She's gone now. You did a good job." Chloe was speechless. Who was this? It didn't sound like Mr. Gable. She immediately called hotel security and sent them to room 207. They found the room completely empty. The Gables' luggage was gone. There was no sign of anyone. The police were called, but they couldn't find any record of the couple after they left the hotel. To this day, Chloe has no idea who was on the phone or what really happened in that room. Was she an unwilling accomplice to something terrible? She quit her job a week later and never worked a night shift again. For our second story, we go to a group of friends celebrating New Year's Eve at a remote cabin in the woods. Let's call the storyteller Mark. He and his 4 friends wanted to get away from the city and have their own private party. The cabin was miles from the nearest town, surrounded by a thick, snowy forest. They spent the evening playing games, listening to music, and waiting for the midnight countdown. Around 10 p.m., they heard a faint knocking at the door. This was strange. They weren't expecting anyone, and the road to the cabin was barely passable. Mark's friend Dave peeked through the window. "There's an old man out there," he said. "He looks frozen." They opened the door to find a frail-looking elderly man bundled in old, tattered clothes. He claimed his car had broken down about a mile away and he'd been walking for hours. He asked if he could just warm up for a bit before trying to walk to the next town. The friends felt sorry for him and let him in, giving him a blanket and a hot drink. The old man was very quiet. He just sat by the fireplace, staring into the flames. The friends tried to make conversation, but he only gave short, one-word answers. It was a bit awkward, but they figured he was just tired and cold. As the clock neared midnight, they started getting ready for their countdown. They offered the old man a drink, but he refused. "I don't celebrate," he muttered. At the stroke of midnight, they all shouted "Happy New Year" and hugged each other. When they turned back to the fireplace, the old man was gone. They were stunned. The front door was still locked from the inside. They checked all the windows and the back door secured. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. They looked at the chair where he had been sitting. The blanket was folded neatly, and the mug was empty on the small table next to it. The strange part, there were no footprints in the snow leading away from the cabin. They had checked for them when they first let him in. His tracks were clear. But now there were no new tracks at all, just the original set leading to the door. The friends were terrified. They stayed up all night, huddled together until the sun came up. The next day, they found out a local legend about a lumberjack who had frozen to death in those same woods on New Year's Eve over a century ago. His spirit is said to wander the forest, seeking warmth on the anniversary of his death. Our final story is from a paramedic named Sarah. New Year's Eve is one of the busiest nights for emergency services. But this particular call was different. Just after midnight, a call came in for a single vehicle accident on a deserted country road. Sarah and her partner arrived to find a car wrapped around a large oak tree. The driver, a young man, was the sole occupant. He was trapped in the wreckage, but miraculously, he was conscious and seemed relatively unharmed, aside from a few cuts and bruises. As they worked to extricate him from the car, the young man was incredibly agitated. "You have to find her," he kept saying. "She ran into the woods. My girlfriend Lily. She was in the car with me." Sarah tried to calm him down, assuring him they would search for her as soon as he was safe. He insisted she was wearing a red dress and that she was terrified. He described the crash, saying he swerved to avoid a deer, lost control, and hit the tree. He said Lily had panicked and run off into the darkness. Once the man was safely in the ambulance, Sarah and a few police officers began searching the surrounding woods. They called out Lily's name, their flashlight beams cutting through the pitch-black forest. After nearly an hour of searching, they found nothing. No footprints, no broken branches, no sign of a girl in a red dress. They went back to the crash site. One of the officers was looking at the passenger side of the car. The door was crushed shut and the window was intact. It would have been impossible for anyone to get out of that side of the car after the impact. Feeling uneasy, Sarah's partner ran the driver's license plate and name through the dispatch system. The results came back a few moments later, and a chill went down Sarah's spine. The young man's girlfriend, Lily, had died 1 year ago to the day. On New Year's Eve, she was killed in a car accident at the very same spot when their car hit that exact same oak tree. The young man had been driving then to it. He was so consumed by grief and guilt that every year on the anniversary he relived the tragic event, his mind creating a phantom of the girl he had lost. He wasn't in an accident that night. He had driven his car to the tree and simply sat there, lost in his own personal nightmare. And those are 3 stories of New Year's Eves that turned from celebration to terror. It just goes to show that even on the brightest nights, darkness can find a way in. What do you think? Do you have a spooky New Year's story of your own? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more strange and scary stories. Happy New Year!